I have had another brainwave. It is from this quote that you cannot have access to the presence of love if you want to be right. You cannot be right and loving in the same space. You can be right at the expense of the presence of love, or you can have love at the expense of being right. It's a big lesson in radical acceptance, of letting go of the need to be right. But why is this? This is what it came. It has to do with this and this. To be right is to be discerning, is to cut like knives. To be loving is to recognize the oneness in all things, right? Even if something is factually untrue, if someone has experienced it, it may be incorrect, but it is still true. And when we recognize truth in others, we recognize the truth in ourselves, which is that we are just looking at ourselves. Just as I am staring into this camera. And it's a very interesting quote. Because my tendency is always to go into my mind because I want to understand things. I process my emotions through knowing things. If I don't know the dynamics at play, I can't really integrate it emotionally. Because I don't understand it, right? So this is why I find this quote so fascinating. So, this dialogue between the heart and the mind, is this dialogue between love and correctness. What is logically so? So, if I am analyzing things and I make a deduction, I cannot have access to my heart. But the need to resolve something in my life because of my love sometimes requires that I have to go into my mind. So the little quest that happens here is that the heart guides us and makes an impulse, and then we're like, okay, I'm going to go that way. And as I start walking that way, I start walking away from my heart, and then I start focusing on the problem, trying to solve it, right? Which is such a powerful thing. But whilst I'm in the process trying to solve it, I can forget about my heart. Or I can stay in the heart too long and never undergo that process. So I can love and love and love and love, but nothing changes because I haven't gone through that process. Because this is the relationship between I, individual, monoscopic thinking, and am, which is universal intelligence that comes from the heart, right? I am, I am, I am, right? So the quote is so true and revealing. I cannot be right and have access to the presence of love, but I cannot have access to the presence of love and be right. It goes the other way around as well. Because having access to the presence of love isn't always the correct response. When you need to innovate, when you need to deduce and discern, it's important to have love for that process of separation. Because love is the fundament, love is the core, love is the home that we always come back to. But that doesn't mean that the passage, the pathway of the mind is wrong or incorrect. That would be an unloving thing. This is such a brilliant quote. It's just so rich. It just brings up so much. And yeah, it's titillating. Okay, that's me. Cheerio, bye.